Joanne would end up getting arrested and charged with 3 separate counts of breaking and entering and larceny for driving a car with stolen plates. So for all of this, in 1974, Joanne Little would be sentenced to 10 years in prison. So Joanne, she is 20 years old at this point, and mind you, she's very petite. And she's sent to Beaufort County Jail, where she would be the only woman in there. The jail used a video system to keep the prisoners under observation, as most do, which meant Joanne was monitored at all times to make sure that she was not doing anything fishy, right? But to her, it was uncomfortable. Again, she was the only lady there, and the people who were working, it's an all-male staff. So there was one instance where Joanne tried to use her bedsheet to cover the camera while she took a shower in her cell. But quickly they responded and they took all of her bed sheets away as punishment. No bed sheets for you. So Joanne has been in prison for about, I think it's 2 months at this point. And at the early hours of 3 or 4 a.m. on August 27th, 1974, one of the guards working that morning walked the cells, as they do, to make sure that everything was good. When he gets down the line to Joanne's cell, he discovers the 62-year-old officer, Clarence Olligood, dead, just laying face down, dead, with no Joanne in sight. Now, according to Joanne, this is what happened that night. Clarence Olligood was the jailer working that night. Earlier, he had brought her cigarettes and sandwiches. She said she had never asked for it and didn't know he was going to come back and ask for, quote unquote, payment. She told him no and asked him to leave, but he did not. She said he then came into her cell holding an ice pick. I know, I was like, an ice pick? It's so random. An ice pick? What? Yes, an ice pick. So the jailers would use the ice pick to unclog drains and stuff. Yeah, I did look into it because I was like, why do they have an ice pick? To unclog drains, you guys. But he has the ice pick, and according to Joan, he was using the ice pick to threaten her into having oral sex. So she said she went along with it, and then at one point saw an opportunity to snatch the ice pick out of his hands, so she went for it. I guess at this point the two had struggled for a bit, but Joanne was able to get the ice pick out of his hands and then stab Clarence multiple times. Joanne said that he then fell on the ground. She saw blood on his face. She grabbed some clothes, the keys off of his chain, and then she got out of there. Joanne said she went to a family member's home first, when she escaped, and they wouldn't take her in pretty much because by the time that Joanne had gotten there, the news was already out. And news had spread really quickly that she was on the run, okay? And the family didn't want to put themselves in jeopardy. So then Joanne goes to an older man in her community, and he goes by the name Pop Barnes. And Pop Barnes had lived across the street from her school. And he would sit on the porch every morning and say hello to the kids. Every day he would do that. On top of that, his house wasn't too far from the jail. And Pop Barnes said that he wanted to help her, so he took her in. Shortly after, the police came to Pop Barnes' home looking for Joanne. They were just going everywhere in the area, And Pop Barnes, he would not give the police anything to work with. The police even came back and offered him a year's salary if he told them where Joanne was, but he still didn't turn her in. He said he wouldn't do it because he felt that she needed help. So she ends up hiding at Pop Barnes' home for about 6 days. Meanwhile, the media got hold of this and people were listening to the evening updates on the radio. So the radio is reporting black female inmate escapes from prison, killed white jailer on the run. Just really sending the town into a frenzy. They were all getting riled up, obviously. So people are getting all riled up and people are talking, right? Well, eventually some allegations about Clarence's past started to come out. People were like, oh yeah, talking about Mr. Clarence over here. You see, Clarence Olligood was a 62-year-old white man working as a prison guard, but he actually had quite the reputation around him. He was known for giving female prisoners gifts like snacks, magazines, cigarettes, whatever, but only accepting sexual favors as payment, allegedly. What's gross is that he was known for this, which to me meant people knew he did this. You know, Clarence had been working at, different prisons or in jails or whatever, and eventually he was working at Beaufort for about a year when Joan came in. So all these allegations are coming out about Clarence. The sheriff who had worked with Clarence at the jail said that Clarence was the most security-minded man they ever had there, and he had no idea about what was going on, essentially giving a very PR answer. You know how it sounds. We are shocked and disappointed to hear of the allegations about... it was like that. And you're just like, eye roll.